Hey, as far as I know, Kendall will be late today, so she asked me to step in. Let's wait 1 or 2 minutes and give time for everyone to join, and then we can start.
Yeah, hi, hello everyone.
Hello.
Maybe you can slowly start with the meeting. I think the first point on the agenda would be daily university updates from Vipin.
Yeah,
Hey.
thanks, Max, for that. So we are working on hands-on deployments of 5GSA and also for the authentication. Last time I showed authentication, and also we are updating to some more security parts in the authentication. That's it.
Cool. Is your progress somewhere or your work somewhere visible? I just would not know where to look except for Magma India, maybe.
Yeah, it's still some Magma India. We are looking like where we can like start contributing on the wiki. So if there is any SIG or something like or any working group, like for example documentation working group or something. So for example, it's easy for others as well, like from the community, if someone wants to contribute something, then it will be really helpful. There should be a path like where to, like on wiki, where to start or how to start something.
So we have a docs channel in Slack and we can
Mhm.
start communication there, like how to collaborate and how to update documentation, the Docusaurus, and we also have the contribution guide on our GitHub wiki. You can also update few things there.
Okay, sure.
Or you can just ping me
Sure.
for an entry point.
Sure.
Cool. Next, we still have release updates on the agenda from Govind and Rashid. If I don't know if we need to keep that. I don't know if there was any updates related to 1.8, or if we if there.
Yeah, there was one small thing, Max. We decided to track 1.8 specific defects with a new tag. So I created the tag. I posted it in one of the meeting. Maybe I'll update it again here. So with that, what will happen is anything which is specific to 1.8 gets tracked. So I think that was the only thing which was pending for release updates. So I think I'll put the tag name here and then we can close it for next time.
And the expected Sorry, I didn't follow the last comment.
Yeah, that was the only, meaning the expectation was
Mhm.
what are the defects which are specific to 1.8. So I think we discussed that we need to have a label to track 1.8 specific defects. So whatever I was able to figure out, I kept the tag there. So if that is of any help to track 1.8 defects, that tag can be used.
Sounds good. And
That was the only pending item on the release updates.
and I don't know. I have no opinion yet, but is there a reason for fast 181? Are there significant issues, or are we right now good?
Yeah, Max, I think there were a couple of crashes which has been reported on 1.8. Unfortunately, we are not able to simulate it. I think so. Crash issues are one category. Second issue was this subscriber DB update related issues. I think we got some help from PNG team and we were able to fix. But yeah, those were the two things we got as a feedback. So customers are actually going from 1.6 to 1.8. They are not taking the 1.7 path. So what happened was there was some hash level changes done in subscriber DB to sync up the cloud subscriber database and AGW. So because of that, some issues happened. So yeah, those are the two main issues we heard from our customers.
And if I would filter for issues with label 1.8 issue, or how you have called the tag, I would find that probably.
Sure. I'll do that. I'll post it here also so that we can look at it. And some of the issues I've still not filed because I don't have a concrete logs to say that what is the issue, or in some cases I don't have the analysis logs. So as soon as I get all that information, I'll start adding more tickets.
Maybe it would be helpful to just create a ticket with the initial Slack message, or I don't know, it doesn't need to be complete, but at least be somehow persisted and observable. That would be great. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Good. Next would be DevOps. Any DevOps updated?
So from yes. So from DevOps side, I was actually trying to restructure our Terraform orchestrated deployment script with interest to latest release of the Terraform, and I have updated all the modules for EFS structure and EKS structure, and it's working now. I was facing an issue earlier, but yeah, now it's working now. And next step is to just enable the 1.8 release with the latest EKS. Once that is done, I'll just update the PR. Right now it's in draft mode. I'm updating the code regularly there. Once everything is in place, I'll just publish it. And Tim is also working on the migration of our Artifactory to the LF Artifactory. Yeah, that's it, I guess. Any questions?
Yeah, the maybe migration to LF Artifactory. Do we have any progress there? Do we know if the initial seeding of has happened or not?
No update on that. I can ask Tim to update us on channel.
Yeah, maybe it would be interesting to ask someone from LF to give an update here on TSC related to the migration. I think that since they are working on that would be helpful.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I will do that.
So
I will. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
So that was DevOps. Any other DevOps related stuff? Otherwise, we would be going to testing. There was just the testing call. I sadly missed that. But any updates on testing?
Yeah, I think that meeting didn't happen, or I was also looking for it, but that meeting got cancelled.
Yeah, I mean, no, it wasn't canceled. You know, there was this daytime switch because of that. That
Okay.
link didn't work. I posted the new link, by the way. So as per there we mostly discuss about this the document which Frank shared about AWS for testing ARM. And that was the last discussion which we were doing. Rest, we were talking about the 4G intake, about the 4G FEG intake test. There is an issue when we try to enable it for PCRF. And the issue is mostly related to the way we deploy. So far, we have been deploying the FEG intake test. So what we do right now is that we in the same VM, Vagrant VM of AGW, we deploy in that VM the FEG containers, and the FEG containers are running in host mode and in host networking modes. And in that, there is also a Redis container. So the Redis container of the AGW, of the FEG, and the Redis, which is running as a service inside that Vagrant VM, they clash because they both try to use the same port, which is not possible. So far, we have not seen this. This issue never really created any problem, and the tests were running perfectly fine because there was no test in which we were really talking to the Redis. And PCR really does that to fetch some information. And right now, that is not possible. So first, we need to fix the way the deployment is, and then the PCRF test will be running properly. So for that, we created an issue. We'll fix that, and then we enable the test. So that was one thing we discussed. And that's it about the 5G testing. For the 5G testing, Lionel and Rafael, they're working on the architectural document, and they did some basic initial testing. That's it.
Just out of interest, is the solution to get rid of host mode networking, or?
Yes, we want to get rid of that host mode networking because that's not good.
Yeah, good. And next, get rid of privileged. And I think there was also a third thing that we should get rid of.
But let's do it step by step.
Yeah. I think I had I saw the PDF regarding the S1AP and for ARM AWS costs. They are still calculated on one instance running 24/7, or are they calculated somehow on number of runs?
They are calculated 24/7, but using the spot strategy.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So in Spot, in Spot you have to understand they can anytime cancel the Spot license. In that scenario, our instance will convert to on-demand instance, and we will be built like for on-demand. So you have to keep this in mind. This happens sometimes, especially with ARM instances, because they have less number of instances to provide us.
Yeah, a preemption strategy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. I think that was testing. Let's skip outreach and come to security. Lucas.
Hello, good morning. So this is the Security Program Management Board. We're going to look at the in progress area. At the top, we have secure defaults, under which there is an item, the guide to secure deployment. Here's where we stand in that. This is the general task list. You can see we're about halfway through it, although I think the hard part is on the top. And coming up next, people will see me working on things related to the orchestrator and the FEG and the domain proxy. Next, before I move on, any questions on that? Okay, so the next item in the priority list is closing known vulnerabilities. Part of this is this ticket scan, subscriber keys stored in memory on host, a long-standing issue that we've known about for a while. That is this ticket 12907, which comes out to 13249, which is right over here. And what I wanted to discuss is that this seems to be stalled. I wonder if anybody knows the state of this ticket.
I don't know the state, but all 4 tasks are done.
That's right. So all 4 tasks are done. And so it should be completed. And that's why I'm asking about it. I guess I'll ask Shruti offline.
So can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, Lucas. Yeah, is this the one that Varun was working on? So I think all the relevant changes are in. The only pending change is adding integration tests to make sure it is being tested in CI. And that's the one it's blocked on to mark it as done. I think the logic is in master, and we are missing documentation and testing. And we are still looking for an owner. I don't know if the TNG team has support to take this on, or we have to look for someone in the community. Because Varun is not at Meta anymore. This was part of his internal project.
So this began when Varun left, and basically the blocker is that it doesn't have an owner anymore.
Yeah, we are looking for someone to complete the testing and documentation. Let me check offline, and I can update the TSC.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna unwind, close that, close that, close that. The next thing I'm going to be working on is this issue of scanning Docker images. People will see some signal about that in the channel. And that is it for me. Thank you for this time.
Good. After security, there would be space for feature development. Anyone wants to speak up regarding something that's not yet here on the agenda? That's your space where you can get some visibility. Next is the better engineering section, starting with the C++ migration. I think you're unmuted, but I can't hear anything.
Yeah, Max, I was gonna you mentioned that this was a good time to start asking questions. I had a few questions, but I'll wait for the right timing. You let me know when I can ask some questions unrelated to your agenda.
Let us just finish the last 2 to 3 items in the agenda, and then you have space.
Perfect.
C++. Rashmi, you are not muted, but I don't hear anything. We can't hear anything. We still can't hear anything. Maybe let's switch to Basil first and circle back and check if the audio might fix itself. Okay, yeah, please reconnect, and you will have space afterwards. Then next is Basil.
Yeah, hello everybody. Let me share my screen. I can't share. Rashmi, can you stop the share, please? Thank you. 1 second. So about the Basel update, and we have one huge update before I will go into the smaller parts, and we want to start the switch over. So basically until now we created a build system in parallel and created a CI that runs in parallel. And we feel like that we are in a situation now where everything is tested sufficiently. A lot of developers that do not work directly on Basel are already using Basel for development. So we think this is a good time to actually start the switchover. We decided to not do a big bang switchover. So from today to tomorrow, say, click, and now everything works with Basel, but we want to do it step by step. So the idea is that we will start with the CI to remove the duplicated jobs, make the Basel jobs required if necessary, and remove step by step the make steps that are, or the make targets that are not used anymore in CI then. We will announce the single steps in Slack. This is, as I said, tested extensively, but we expect that at some points, at some places, problems will occur. So feel free, if you encounter any issue, to notify us in Slack, in the Basel or in the dev channel. So any questions for the switchover itself? Then a little bit details where we are currently working on. We will start to publish the Basel Debian artifact to the Artifactory. It's already built and used in CI, but of course we want to publish this for users as well. For the Docker build, before I have set this to will not be used or will not be modeled by Basel, I switched this to in progress because there's a POC ongoing, and Jan will talk today also about a proposal to use this Basel Docker build, but it's not in scope of the switchover. Other things that are in progress, before we wanted to execute the integration test with Basel, we decided now to just build the environment with Basel, but execute them directly with PyTest because it's just more efficient to do that, because integration tests should be executed all the time. We don't really can rely on caching for that. So this is in progress. The load tests are migrated to Basel now as well. This is already merged, but they are not executed in CI, as it is the same case for make currently. But in this effort, it was tested that they are actually still working. For the developer experience, we will update the documentation then step by step when we switch small parts to Basel. Prepare IDEs for code navigation. This is still here set in progress, but I have learned it was merged just before the meeting. So we have now a nice environment set up. So the usual IDEs, VS Code and IntelliJ can navigate to dependencies and to the generated code generated by Basel. And for the detailed improvements, as always, many are in progress. Any questions? Then I would be finished with the update and give the screen back. Thank you.
So Rashmi, is your audio now working?
Nils, I had one question about the build transition. So
Sure.
Does it mean for the dev setup also the make targets would be removed, or they still exist for some of us who still use make?
The most we will remove then step by step, but we have prepared a dictionary where the make targets can be translated to the respective Basel call. But so this is the current approach.
I see. Okay, just wanted to bring it to the attention of Radis's team, Rashmi,
Yeah.
Prithvi. Yeah, thank you.
Sure. I will update the next steps after the TSC meeting in the dev channel, and there will also be a link to this dictionary from make targets to Basel targets.
Awesome, thank you.
Rashmi, we can't hear anything. Audio still not working? I think there is, no, you're not audible. We can't hear you. Okay.
Rashmi, is it possible for you to give your update in Slack today? Okay, she's gonna do that.
Yeah. Great. And you can continue to try to become audible, and if you succeed, you get your time. Next would be data path. Nick or Yogesh?
Nothing from my end.
Same here, nothing from my end.
Next would be roadmap update, but also there's nothing happened. But it was brought to my attention that we should incorporate the feedback from 1.8 and update 1.9 and 1.9 or later plans. And yeah. So that would be the weekly check-ins. Mark, that would now be space for you and your questions.
Yeah, my questions is more around feature development, and I'm wondering if there's an up-to-date roadmap feature list that folks are working on in the community. You know, being on the board, I'm just wondering where that's, you know, whether that's up to date and where I can find that. So I don't know if it's a question for you, Max, or other folks in the community to answer, but.
I think the I can answer one part. There is the roadmap subsite in the wiki, which is partially mostly not updated since 1.8, so mostly not up to date or not sufficiently up to date. And Yogesh, I think you have the Excel sheet for 5G roadmap. What's the state of that?
Sure, Max, so shall I share my screen?
Yeah.
Just for a second. Yeah. So I think there was an Excel where we have captured all the features, and what we were thinking was based on the feedback, we'll pick and choose few of them. So from that list, we were able to figure out like 4 items. So this list is updated here in our Magma roadmap. And yeah, so we have started working on these improvements. There were a couple of improvements we have found, but yeah, all the list and their defects are listed here for the 5G part. So this is a subset from that big Excel which we prepared. Based on the discussions or the feedback offline from various stakeholders.
Okay, so these are things that Wave Labs is looking at developing, and leading. And I see here Freedom Fi base cells, and assume that's now off the table and not going to happen, right? Based on Freedom Fi's change in direction in terms of using the Magma core itself. Has that been communicated to the technical team? Like, do you guys see visibility into this, you know, this work? Or
I haven't seen any update in the direction of the Magma gateway or any statements related to that.
Okay.
That sounds reasonable.
Well, we can confirm, but that sounds like one item on this list that probably does not belong. Other than Wave Labs, is there anybody else planning on doing development and contributing into this project for 1.9 release that are on the call? And I know Connect 5G, you've got some work that you're going to plan and maybe bring forward when you're ready. So I think it would make sense for those who are looking at the roadmap. It looks like it's Wave Labs and Connect 5G from a development perspective to get together and figure out what the priority should be, you know, for 1.9. Do we have a timeline of when we're hoping to see a 1.9 release? Is this like a 6-month effort or is this a 4-month effort? What do we think from a timeline perspective?
I think there was not yet any public discussion about that.
Okay.
But at least in the 1.8 releasing process, there was some talking about a fast 1.9 instead of patch releases. So there was a tentative hint that it will happen earlier than expected. So, but I don't have a real timeline in mind right now. But it's something that should be discussed in that round, probably.
Is that something we can take up in the next TSC as a deep dive on the roadmap and make sure that everybody's aligned on the feature sets? Is that something that you would be happy to discuss, Yogesh from Wave Labs?
Sure. Sure. We'll target for whatever the features planned for 1.9 and we'll try to come up with a timeline. Yeah, I'll take that action for 5G part.
Yeah, sounds good.
And then Max, it would be good also to have maybe by the next session an update on what you're planning to do from a DevOps perspective for 1.9 release. We can try to align all this together.
I will have that prepared, yes.
Okay.
And I don't know, somewhere it would probably be also good to have a call to action in some public channel. Maybe someone with permissions to the announcements channel could ask in Magma Slack for input for the roadmap.
Is that something you can help us with, Kendall? Ask for input on the Magma Slack channel to for roadmap discussion in the next TSC.
Yeah, just adding it to the agenda or actually sending out the notice to the Slack members.
I think there should be tomorrow or sooner notice in Slack in the announcements channel. Hey, we are planning to have a discussion in TSC about roadmap 1.9. Please provide input. What would be your required features? What do you see on the roadmap? What do you plan to contribute?
Okay. Yeah, I can help with that.
That would be great.
Sure.
And we probably should mention a valid feedback channel. Maybe something like create a ticket, add it to the Confluence page, or just speak up in the meeting.
Yeah, ideally on paper, they can put it on the spreadsheet and start having something documented. That'll give us, you know, ability to have visibility on what's being developed and what's planned, so we can advertise that properly.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's all I had for now, Max.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, good. Then we have 2 proposals on the agenda. The first proposal will be presented by Sebastian.
Right. Yeah, hello, everyone. It's actually just a small proposal about code owner groups. So we've recently noticed there are some small code owner groups that that don't get many reviews to do, and that also don't have many active people, especially the group approvers session D. And we're wondering whether it might be a good idea to reduce the number of code owner groups and merge some of the smaller groups into larger groups. So concretely, I would propose to merge the session D approvers group with the main AGW approvers group. And another idea would be to merge the orchestrator infra group with the main orchestrator group. And I'm just wondering what people think about that.
Yeah, it's a great idea because we don't have much people in those groups. So if you merge those, the people will get more PRs to review.
one question I would have is, should orchestrator infra be merged with orchestrator or with a DevOps round? I don't, but I'm in favor of reducing the number of groups.
So yeah, we can discuss this, but yeah, whatever less groups is good.
Hmm.
And once
Um,
that's figured
Yeah.
out, I'm happy to help simplify those groups and join them together.
I would like to just double check if there's an overlap between and I believe there's an overlap with session D and AGW group, because that way we don't lose the context. Folks who are on the approvers session D group are folks who are more aware, who have more context on the code. So while we're merging, we have make sure those folks are carried over.
Yeah, the idea would be to carry all the active code owners over, so to have the superset of both groups.
Yeah, I wouldn't restrict to active. There, Shruti is presented a separate approach how to handle active and non-active contributors.
Right. Yeah, I also wanted to highlight that if I don't see any comments on the issue on the proposal, so Kendall, could you raise a vote? Probably on Slack if we don't have enough quorum today.
We have enough as far as I know, so maybe we can also do it in the meeting.
Yeah, we could go. We have just quorum if we want to go ahead and do it in this meeting.
Okay.
All right. Would someone like to raise the motion?
Just out of confusion, motion for Shruti's proposal or motion for merging the approvers, or do we need
Shruti's proposal?
Shruti's, okay. Yeah, I would like to raise the motion since I'm already unmuted.
Thank you. Would someone like to second?
Yeah, I will second. Yeah, I will second it.
Thanks, Shubham. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I only heard 2 ayes. Can all the TSC members who vote in favor say aye or put it in the chat, please?
We're not able to hear Yogesh.
Yeah, I'm in favor. Sorry, there was some issue from my end.
It looks like we actually lost Nick, so we did lose quorum. I just realized. Let's just move this. I'll move this to Slack to get this vote started right after this, if that's okay. Sorry about that, guys.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, and I guess we can also then continue the discussion on merging the groups in Slack in the code owners channel.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Thank you.
Okay, so to the next proposal then, John.
Yeah, hi everyone. Let me quickly share my screen. So you should see a browser open. And so this proposal is to build the AGW Docker containers using Bazel. And the main motivation is summarized here in the TLDR. So basically, when you do a code change, currently it takes like 1 to 5 minutes to rebuild the respective containers. And there's a proof of concept PR that demonstrates how fast it would be with Bazel. And it's more in the order of seconds. And yeah, this is the main motivation. There are some more problems, like the image are relatively large currently, and also they are sort of we are combining lots of services in one image, so you can't you have to restart a lot of images if you change one. And the solution proposed here is twofold. So one thing is to build the images with Bazel, and the other is to also separate the images per service. So don't have one big Python image anymore and one big C image, but basically have one image per service. And yeah,
So I think I'm not going to dive much more into the technical details, just this one table down here. Here we see actually an investigation of the build times. And I think the interesting one, what you mostly see as a developer, is the after code change ones. So you see here with Docker, you have 1 minute, and with Bazel, you are more in the order of seconds. Yeah. Any questions to that? Do you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, sorry, I muted myself. Yeah, I was saying, I think it's probably something that is good and that is well prepared, but I would say we still should give some time for feedback and for input.
Mm-hmm.
And probably would be good to vote on that next week.
Can I share? So,
yeah.
I mean, I know I'm not a member of the TSC, but can I share my opinion on this proposition? Okay, so I see a problem. Actually, I see two problems of building the containers with Bazel. One could sound trivial, but people who are new to the project will always expect to find Docker file when a container is built, so they will try to inspect a Docker file. So it will be maybe confusing for them to try to figure out how Bazel is building the containers. But this is trivial. The other concern which I have, it's more material concern, and it's concern of the caching. Basically, the reason for Bazel being fast is the use of the cache, but the use of the cache creates lots of problems with the dependencies. And I don't know how Bazel would be good to figure out exactly how to work with these dependencies and to make sure that when you build a container, that process is repeatable, which means that the container you are building is the same that the container which I will build. Otherwise, we will, I mean, if we cannot assure this, we will end up that I have one container, you have different container, I have defect, you don't have defect, and we cannot reproduce the problems.
I would like to see that in the current Docker builds, which are doing apt-get update within the build, which are multi-staged and also have caching in several layers. So I think Bazel improves on that, since Bazel builds the artifact on the host and puts it into a container in the end, and you can just bump the base image pretty fast. And so it actually inverts the order of caching. So it allows to replace the base image without breaking cache. And you always have the option to just build without cache if you are afraid of that. And this, regarding the first point, we right now have 46 Docker files in our source tree. So a Docker file being easy is something I wouldn't agree on in Magma, especially since one of these files is beyond 400 lines of code. So that's the second comment.
Yeah, that is also.
Yeah, but I didn't. Yeah, but I mean, just to clarify, I didn't say the Docker file it's easy. It's more expected for a person who will find that there is a Docker image. He will expect to see Docker file. 500 lines or 10 lines. I mean, one thing is to have a Docker file which you can inspect. Different thing is to go and try to work with Bazel. And going back to my concern on the caching, yes, you're right. I mean, Docker is trying to use some cache as well. But then the measurement of the time over there is Docker without cache. I don't think if you activate all the caching features of Docker, you will come to 5 minutes for the build as well.
No, that is not true. So let me scroll down. So we see here, for example, you have this from scratch and you have this after code change. And so now what I presented was mostly after code change, because that is what you will typically see as a developer. So that is your standard situation. You have already built the images and you do a small change, and then how long do you have to wait to get feedback? And this is sort of the comparison on the Docker side. So for example, for Python, we are in the order of 1 minute, and for Bazel, we are in the order of 4 seconds. And you also have this from scratch rows. So here we have, for example, Python 4.5 minutes, and then there is Bazel no VM cache. No, this is the total no cache. So if you do it initially, the very first time, Bazel will take slightly longer for the Python container. But then just the incremental ones, once there's already cache, will be much faster. And yeah, the situation is a bit different. So for C, it's 15 minutes with the Docker file, it's 11 minutes with Bazel initially, but then again, you have something like 5 minutes with Docker file and 4 seconds with Bazel once you do the incremental builds. And yeah, as I said, this was sort of the main motivation, because the current feedback time is relatively long, and this can be annoying if you're developing and you want to have quick feedback on your changes.
Any other questions from you, John, or any other questions from the round?
I mean, no further questions from my side. As I said, I already shared my opinion. So yeah.
Yeah, you can add your concerns as a comment to that ticket.
Yeah, it will also be interesting to have a link or on some issue that sort of says, okay, that the Bazel builds are less reproducible, because that's not what I saw so far, but it would be interesting to have some data on that.
Okay, if there is no further discussion, I think that's the end of the official agenda. Anything else? That's all.
I have one item I'd like to add and bring to people's attention. OpenSSL has announced that they found an important vulnerability and will be releasing an update tomorrow. We'll see what it is then, but there's a reasonable likelihood that it would affect Magma users. I will post a link to it, to the news story, which is very guarded and limited, I guess, in Slack right now. Thank you.
Good. Hey, Bran, thanks for the meeting. Have a good day. And I think that was the TSC call.
Thank you, everyone. Happy Halloween.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.